Welcome to the latest episode of 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Thanks for joining us on your favorite podcast app. On Apple, recommend Apple Podcasts. Android, recommend Spotify. Also, check out the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. Also, check out Off the Floor. Links here in the description. Place for the most heat anywhere. 10 different channels plus stage shows. This is where you want to go for behind-the-scenes information and the best conversation on the Miami Heat. It's Off the Floor. Also, check out Prize Picks. Use the code 5, FIVE, legal in the state of Florida. This is our daily fantasy partner. Better plays than you'll find anywhere else. And if you use the code 5, delete the other one, put in 5, get your $50 in free lineups. Check it out. It's prizepicks.com. And now, today's episode.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation, we the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket, open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the kick. Still 5 on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleepy paths or allowed to morning. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the court to the streets. Yeah. Wake County, Heat Nation, we say it proudly.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. I'm with Alex Toledo. You can follow him at Tropical Blanket, meet Ethan J. Skolnick, and at 5 Reasons Sports. Make sure you check out everybody's work on the On SI site. We have the Miami Heat, the Orlando Magic, and now the Memphis Grizzlies sites. But we will not be doing Magic and Grizzlies content here. We promise you that. We'll just be covering the Miami Heat. Today's floor plan, what the heck is going on with Jaime Jaquez Jr.? I know that this has been covered to a certain degree on the post games. We appreciate Greg and Adele and others for holding those down. Brady and Alex have been at the arena, but this is by far the biggest surprise of the season. I mean, the macro surprise is the offense. No question about that. The Heat right now are number 1 in the league in points per game. They're not number 1 in offensive rating, but they are number 1 in pace. Okay, through 4 games, they're number 1 in pace. Like we were laughing at all this. But not only are they number 1 in pace, they're also doing this while being top 5 in the league in defensive rating, which is insane that they're doing those two things. And I can tell you it's insane because I also run the Magic site, and I can tell you the Magic's whole conversation this offseason was we're going to increase our pace, and their defense has collapsed. And they're 1-3 to start the season, whereas the Heat are 3-1, even though the Magic haven't won over the Heat. The Magic haven't won since, the Heat haven't lost since. So that the two teams going in different directions with all of that. But we want to focus in a micro way on Jaquez because nobody saw this coming. Let's just be honest. I mean, nobody. I mean, people were saying he should be thrown into trades. He wasn't going to bounce back. I had my doubts, obviously, about. I mean, because look, he was bad last year. I mean, you've talked about it, Alex. We're going to get into the details on. He was like categorically bad, like no question. He was probably the second worst rotation player they had last year behind Rozier. To the point that it didn't really seem what his role was going to be this year at all. And we projected him maybe being on the fringe of the rotation behind Larson, behind Fontecchio, perhaps. And even though Larson played well yesterday in place of Norm Powell, and Fontecchio has played extremely well, that everybody's still talking about Jaquez. So this is, and then there's also, Alex, the ridiculous dunk, as Eric Reed was screaming on his way down I-95, just this aggression he's playing with, the reads that he's making. And by the way, that Eric knows that 8-9-95 because Eric lives in Boca, and you that is never that clear on the way back from Miami to Boca. But look, he's doing all this stuff, and we'll do more breakdowns on why this is happening. I know Brady is going to do another piece on this for Sports Illustrated site. I want to project forward you, though, what this means. If this is the player they're going to get this year, if they're getting an MIP candidate, a 6th Man of the Year candidate, someone who looks better than his first year, does this change their trajectory at all in your view?
I mean, we can talk about how much it changes things, but I don't think there's any doubt as to that it does. Like, you're just factoring in somebody who has frankly been one of your, I don't know, 3 best players or so, like throughout these first few games. I think it's a huge difference. Like you were talking about, we had him as a back end rotation player, somebody who we'd hoped would have a bounce back year, but this is just like, it's almost hard to process, because not only does he look like rookie year Jaime, he looks like he's taken a step up from that. Like he went back to what was working in his rookie year, except he's added like more complicated passing reads. He's just reading the floor much better, looks so much more poised and confident than he did even in year one. He's taking more at the rim and finishing more than he did in year one, So I just feel like it's like he's taken a step upon everything that worked for him in that first year, right? And it's like it's really encouraging, because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of fluky stuff happening with him, right? Like, it's just he's attacking the rim, he's finishing, and he's making the right passes. He's reading the floor. He's playing his role to an absolute T right now. Like, I could not if I had to predict the best case scenario for Jaquez before the season, what he's doing right now, like way surpasses what I would have had. Like, a bounce back season is one thing. This is something else entirely. And like what you said, like if he keeps up this rate at, this pace that he's been playing at, absolutely he's going to be a candidate for 6th man of the year. Absolutely, he'll be somewhere in that conversation for most improved. We'll see if he can keep this up, because this level he's playing at right now, it's really high. Now, like, how much does it change my playoff expectations for him? I don't know, but it does absolutely like help you picture them outside of the play-in. Like, all of a sudden there's sort of a blueprint that's been laid out here, where it's like, okay, when the offense is looking like this, and not to mention the defense, because they wouldn't be able to play at this pace if they weren't defending and getting themselves these transition and early transition opportunities.
Well, Alex, to that point, his defensive metrics are great too. I mean, that's the thing. It hasn't just been the offense. We're focusing on the highlight plays, the ball in his hands, and making the reads. But Stat Defender had a stat out today. I know it's super early sample size, but he's leading the league. Okay. In
defensive field goal percentage, like, is a little bit tough, because it kind of accounts for different things, and stat guys don't love it too much. But here's one I can give you. So far through these first 4 games, their defensive rating jumps by 40 points when he's on the floor. Yeah. They have a plus 40 net rating when he's on the floor, minus 21. By the way,
he's been on the floor. He's been on the floor a lot with Drew also.
Now I will say there's some fluky stuff happening with like opponent 3-point shooting in those minutes, but even then, like a plus 60 net rating, like you can account for that. For the opponents only shooting 22% from 3 in those minutes, you kind of project it back to average shooting, and it's still a massive difference in when he's on the floor or not. Like, he has been incredible for them. I don't know what, like, his defense has been good, because that was a problem for him last year, as you said. The offense has been on a different level. Like, he's absolute. Like, where do you right now? I think he's just been one of their 3 best players.
I mean, I don't think you're making an argument he hasn't been. I think if you look at their totality of their roster, Powell when he's played, Bam has certainly had his moments, and I think that's where it is. I think Wiggins has done and Davion's been great. And Wiggins has found a role. Fontecchio off the bench has been consistent, and Jovic and Ware have each had moments, although Spo was not thrilled with Ware in this last game. But the thing is, and that's what I want to get back to, is on the other side of this, we get back to trajectory, is because we've talked so much about their young core, and I think we did, and I think reasonably so, pushed him out of it a little bit this offseason. Our conversation about their young core was largely about Jovic and Ware. And Jaquez has been the most impressive of the 3 already. He has forced his way into a role, and he's done it again with this relentless attacking that he's done. And this is what Spoelstra talked about when he spoke to us in Vegas in July about just playing downhill. But now he's playing downhill, and he's working in the spins. It's not like just go to a spin. It's like he's using other things to set that up. It kind of feels like a quarterback using play action a little bit. Like he's doing those kind of things consistently. And again, I want to get to on the other side what this means, because contractually there are some things that play into this. This looks like a player you're going to want to extend. And I think what's kind of happening here, and it's going to happen with Powell also, is that there's going to be a point in this season where we're going to be like, do the Heat just want to lock into this roster? And that's going to create a lot of debate. You know that, though. Like, if you got they've
It's
already
so
paid
funny
Jovic.
that we're talking about that.
I know that, but they've already paid Jovic. They're going to pay Norm. Okay, they're going to pay Norm. I may not be this, but they're going to pay Norm. They're going to pay Norm at some point. I would pay Norm. I don't see why Norm's going to have a dramatic decline in the next 3 years. I mean, I don't. Again, there's the bigger question out there, and we'll talk about that on the other side too. Before we do, though, because we're going to endure some pain discussing this is a whole nother topic. 305-800-PAIN. 305-800-PAIN. If you got a car accident, a slip and fall, reach out to our friends Manny, Danny, their entire team. You can just do it 24/7. You won't get them directly, but you'll get people who will get you to the right attorney and will make sure that they take care of your problem. Bilingual, they're in Doral. Of course, they're bilingual. Got to be bilingual. We all got to be bilingual down here. You should be bilingual, but they certainly are. 305-800-PAIN. Again, if you have a car accident, the phone number is the brand. Reach out to them right away. Okay, so here's the other issue. Well, let's talk about that. I mentioned this briefly with Brady. I'll let you do the basketball thing on this for a minute. How much does Jaquez's role change when Herro comes back?
It's a great question. It's a tough question, you might say. But honestly, I think
asked it of Brady, though, so you had time to prepare.
Well, I think it's tough regardless. I think it's going to be a situation where, what do you mess with and what do you not mess with? And I touched on this briefly, I think, on the last live stream that I was on, but I'm more concerned about what Tyler does to their defense than what he does to their offense. And obviously, individually, that's not a hot take, but I just feel like so much of the conversation has been about, him being like this hold the ball type of player who needs a million pick and rolls. And to be fair, most of the players on the roster that were playing slow, it felt like it was a kind of altogether a team style thing that was going on. So I'm willing to give Tyler the benefit of the doubt just because I know he's a highly skilled offensive player. I do think he can do a lot of the stuff that Norm is doing. Like, it's really just coming off the catch, coming off the ball. It's stuff that we were asking of him for years. He showed off here and there last season before Jimmy was gone. I think he can do that stuff. He can make a read as to whether to, come off the catch and whether to shoot, whether to attack. They attack in different ways. Like, Norm is a little bit more like slither through and then finish with a floater. Like, Tyler loves the floater too, but they do it in different ways. But either way, like, there's similar reads that he can make. I think he can play in a similar role to what Norm is doing, right? But who do you bench? Are you taking out Davion, who's been this consistent source of incredible point of attack defense, a consistent source of rim pressure, an awesome playmaker for them? Like Bam last night, I think it was Bam who said, if there was one person on this team who could average double digit assists, he said it was Davion, right? And I just think it's one of those, like, he's, to me, been so good for them that I don't know if I would want to bench him.
I think you can put it. Well, let's start here because I want to get back to the Jaquez conversation. I don't want to go too long on this, but I do think that Davion could be moved to the bench. I'm not worried about that one. The question becomes that's what's going to happen, by the way. It's because he's not going to bench Wiggins, and he's not going to bench. You can make the argument he can bench Ware Jovic and play Wiggins at the 4. He might do that. That feels Luol Deng like. This way that they're playing, they potentially could do that. I don't think that's going to happen. If you're just talking about who's been least and most effective, that might be the way that you go, but I don't think he'll do that. I think the more likely scenario is move Davion to the bench, but then what happens? My bigger question is what happens to Drew?
Well, that's why I think it just makes so much sense to keep Davion, not only because of how good he's been and how much it would mess with their defense if they don't have one of their 2 point of attack guys on there and both of them coming off the bench.
You putting Wiggins on the bench?
Either Wiggins or the other front court player, which has been Ware so far, which we thought it was going to be Nico at one point, but we thought it was going to be Ware, whatever. One of those 2 guys, right? The other thing with Davion staying in the starting lineup is that, Davion and Jaime have been 2 of their most get downhill, get into the paint guys, kind of consistently. So I do think it kind of keeps them staggered in that way where Davion is the guy who's giving you that downhill rim pressure. And of course, it's not only them, but they're the guys doing it the most. So I feel like having them staggered a little bit makes more sense for Jaime to still be able to play that role when he's coming off the bench, as opposed to having to share those touches with Davion. I think it makes more sense to if you want to keep Jaime in this role, he's going to have to adjust regardless because he's going to be playing with a guy in Tyler who gets a lot of usage. Like I said, I think I'm willing to give Tyler the benefit of the doubt that he's just not going to hold the ball. Like I don't necessarily think he's that type of player. But I think if the conversation is about keeping Jaime in this role, I really do think keeping Davion like as a rim pressure and playmaker guy, not even, talking about the defense, but maybe even more importantly so, I think that might be the way to keep things rolling. Like I don't want to mess with their defense. I don't want to put their two rim pressure guys off the bench. With the way that things are going, this play style, I think you need one of them starting, and I think it's the guy who is defending there.
Okay, but that's the other thing. If you're going to move Wiggins to the bench, so we're conceivably saying that you're running a bench if you're not staggering, which they will do some staggering, obviously, and they'll run Powell or Herro with some of these groups. He's done that before. He'll run Bam with some of these groups. But if you're going to take Wiggins off the bench, then you're essentially saying you're bringing Jovic, Wiggins,
Andrew Smith, and Fontecchio.
And Fontecchio. So you've got four wings, I guess, right?
I mean, there'll be a 5 on the floor. I'm not saying Jovic is going to play the 5. Like one of them will be out, and they're not going to do the 5 in, 5 out. But no, I do think they can. I don't think Wiggins needs his own like bench lineup to score and create. Like I just don't think he's capable of that. I like him when he's just fitting in and adding stuff.
Yeah,
I think he can, he can work alongside that lineup with Jaime initiating, Nico doing the secondary playmaking and all that. Like, I think it's just a better look than just keeping Wiggins in there because, he was the second best player, third best player on the title team 3 years ago.
Right. Okay. So, but to the bigger point though, if we're talking about, and I think Fontecchio still gets rotation minutes just because they need his shooting.
Absolutely.
So if that's right, but if that's the case, Larson's the odd guy out early in the season. That's kind of how this is played out. And it's largely played out that way because of the way Jaquez has played, because we had Larson, most of us, ahead of Jaquez going into the season. So before we close this out, though, let's close with this question. If this continues, and I'm not saying Jaime's going to be averaging what he's averaging, because it's insane, okay, right now. But, I mean, if you're talking about a player who at the end of the year is averaging 13, 6, and 3 or 4 on high-efficiency shooting, playing pretty damn good defense, and changing a lot of games with his energy, like that's a player you're going to end up extending, right? I mean, or I know we're going to get from some of the Heat crowd. I know it's coming, sell high, right? We're going to get the sell high crowd, use him as the chip to get you the star, right? And look, there's an argument to be made for that. There's nothing wrong with the Heat's young players popping and giving you the core, whether it was Ware or Jovic or Jaquez or any of them, and giving you that piece to be able to move to get the bigger piece. That's the stargazing piece that lets you win. Now, that is an option. I'm not going to totally dismiss it, but I'm also saying the other option and the other way they could go, and this is going to end up, I think, being the next great Heat debate, is you just lock in, you like these young players, they have a chemistry together, and you lock them in. And it becomes the debate that you had after the 03-04 season. Now, that was, you made a trade for Shaq, okay? But they could have continued building with Karan and Lamar and Dwayne. And they might have had a championship team in 2 years, honestly. I mean, they could have. I mean, certainly with the way that Dwayne rose, but they shortcut the process by going out and getting Shaq because he was Shaq. So if there's another Shaq out there, you could take 2 of these guys and use them as the key pieces, and one of them could be Jaquez. But isn't that where we're headed now? Because it feels like you got to go one way. You're going to have to go one way or the other. Like, right? You either really like this team, and you're going to start to build around them, and and then you hope that Jovic or Ware starts to get your attention the way that, and they have at times, but the way that Jaquez has consistently here. Say, okay, we got Jovic, we got Ware, we got Jaquez, we got Norm on a relatively team-friendly deal for a guy who can consistently score, and we have Tyler at some price. We've got Bam locked in. We like our team, right?
Oh man,
like.
I think he just triggered everybody with those 4 words.
Run it back, right? I mean,
yeah, there you go. There's another one, but there's no doubt if he keeps this up for the rest of the season, I don't know how you don't extend him next summer, which I think is when he is eligible. If I remember correctly, it gets confusing because you think he's like a year because he's so much older than Nico that he's like past that point. But it's like no, he was drafted a year after. He hasn't even entered that rookie scale extension window, but yeah, it's coming next summer. Like it's very conveniently timed for him because if he keeps this up, and even if the production comes down slightly when Tyler's back, right? Because you're incorporating a high usage player, like what you're talking about, those numbers, that impact, if he's just this consistent playmaker, downhill guy for you, because it's not only that he's getting downhill, he is finishing so much better than he did. Like he got downhill last year. He just made the wrong reads a lot of times and didn't finish. And that stuff has completely flipped. If he keeps playing this way, where like the threes just don't matter, which I know he hit 2 last night and hadn't hit any before. The threes just don't matter. Like he's a threat with the fast pace that they're playing to cut, to attack. Like that stuff is far outweighing any sort of like just concerns about shooting. And I do think it's like, I don't know how you don't extend him. I really don't, because it's again, if he keeps this up, like if he keeps this up throughout the rest of the season, I think you sign him now, and maybe at some point down the line, he ends up, he could be a part of a package deal, whatever. Like I think that doesn't necessarily take you out of that. I think that's the modern NBA now is, guys like the guys locked down under contracts, on these contracts. And I think a team would still be willing to trade for him, maybe alongside like Kasparis or Jovic or where, if you're talking about like a superstar player, like all of a sudden it's like, okay, look at this little core. Look at these picks that we can offer in the future. Right. They have, and of course, Herro's going to be making whatever money he's making. Like there's some more optionality if that's like the road that you want to go down eventually, trading for a star. Like there's optionality for putting together a trade package that makes sense. But more than that, I just think like all this stuff they talked about going young, this stuff they talked about playing fast, and like for as much as they talked about playing fast, I think so much of it has had to do with their relentless drive and kick game, the spontaneity of their game. Like there's different layers to what's going well right now, and I think Jaime has been such a huge part of it that I don't know that if he keeps playing like this, I don't know how you don't extend him next summer.
Well, the drive and kick games reminded me a little bit of the 16-17 season when he found it with Waiters and Dragic. There's some things that are going on that he's pulled from the past, pulled from the Pacers from last year, and they've conformed it to the personnel. And I don't want to do the Herro thing now.
And from the Taylor Jenkins Grizzlies, by the way, shout out Taylor Jenkins last year because he ended up getting fired.
No, I know. But they should. Well, they probably should have kept Taylor Jenkins. But I don't want to get into the Herro thing now. But I don't really have a lot of concerns about his fit on offense. I'm with you. I think the people are just overreacting. There's a core of people on Heat Twitter that are just dedicated to this cause for Tyler to fail, and I just don't think that's not the way he's going to fail. It's not going to be because of the lack of offensive IQ.
That's the
he's
thing.
not.
I don't think he's that guy.
Jimmy
it's a problem, but I don't think he's that guy.
Jimmy was more of a problem for this style than Tyler is. On offense, okay?
Well, to be fair, like Tyler has played very slow and very pick and roll heavy, so I understand why people are like, they're thinking of that version of him, and I get it. Like that version can mess with things. So like I think that's valid. But it basically comes down to whether you think he can adjust his game or not. And maybe I'm a little bit optimistic there, but I just think his skill set matches what they want to do as long as you balance out the lineups, I think.
Yeah, he's fine. This is going to be a non-story in 2 weeks. I'm telling you. On offense,
the defense,
okay, they may lose it.
Well.
On offense, they may drop some games and he'll be blamed for it. But I don't think that his offensive fit is going to be the reason for it. But the final thing on this, and then we'll close it. They talked a lot about Jaquez being mini Jimmy, and the only thing I said, and then I jumped off of it last year because he just didn't look good. But remember, Jimmy didn't even start a game his rookie year. Okay, Jimmy came into the league as an older player also. Sometimes it just takes a little time to find your role. I'm not saying Jaime's going to be Jimmy, but he's doing some Jimmy things though. Like there's some of his plays that are reminding you a little bit. Jimmy's footwork was excellent. Jaime's footwork is excellent. Like there are some similarities. And when Jimmy wanted to attack, like he was getting where he wanted to go. Jaime's doing some of that stuff too. So again, we've kind of gotten away from the comp, and I think there are other comps that we could look at here, but I kind of think Jaime's sort of just a unique player. He's just like a bundle of energy, sort of, that you need to let him flow. And this style,
whirling dervish,
right? That's a good way of looking at it, right? So and this style has let him flow, and he has flourished in it. It's interesting because I actually thought Jovic would flourish the most, but Jovic is a little more circumspect in the way he plays. I think this guy just goes, and it feels like the just going has been better so far. Yes,
he's been kind of like this, like what was the cartoon character that spun around?
I know exactly what you're thinking. Yeah, Tasmanian Devil.
Yes.
There you go. Juan Wick
that's
is
kind of what he's been playing like.
We should print T-shirts if we still did that. All right, thanks. 305-800-PAIN. Maybe we will now. 305-800-PAIN. And also our friends over at Prize Picks. Use the code FIV. Have a good one, everybody.